Program complete. Auto-engage time sequence synchronized.
Hello everyone, my name is Jamie Plays, and in today's video we're going to look at the history of Stellaris and its popular total conversion mod, Star Trek New Horizons, focusing on major changes to Stellaris, especially major features that were added or removed, and how they impacted the features and changes in Star Trek New Horizons. Before starting, I want to personally thank the Star Trek New Horizons development team, without whom we would not have this fantastic mod, and without which I would not have been able to build my YouTube channel. I will not be mentioning every single change, tweak, fix, and balance change in this video, but please know that your work is greatly appreciated. I think I can speak on behalf of the community when I say we can't wait to see what you'll do next. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe to my channel. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and either myself or someone else will try to get back to you with an answer. Stellaris 2.0 was released on the 22nd of February 2018, changing the game forever with a huge overhaul for ships, fighting, and getting from point A to point B. Gone was the parallel FTL travel systems of warp, gate, and hyperlane technologies, and in its place was simply hyperlane travel, which has been the case ever since. While the old warp and gate travel systems were removed, the code would eventually be repurposed into wormholes, abandoned gates as megastructures, and more in future updates. The 2.0 update also saw the addition of the claim system to the game, meaning you had to spend influence to claim systems before you could conquer them, adding another level of checks and balances between empires in an already war-torn galaxy. The fleet command limit was also introduced in this patch, as well as the fleet manager, changing the way we manage our fleets and get angry at them when you would build something and then it wouldn't merge into the fleet like it's supposed to. Last but not least, space weather such as nebulas were added, affecting ship hyperlane charge times and in-system flight speeds. On the Star Trek New Horizons side, this update required a lot of background work from the dev team. The hyperlane travel had to be adapted from Stellaris to attempt to simulate warp, and the team was able to slow down inter-system travel speeds and increase system connections to come up with a good approximation for warp, which would be improved upon in later patches. In terms of new content, Species saw the biggest gain in this update, with the Ocampans, Tellarians, and Augment Connate, including its event chain, added, and the Akamarians, Antedans, Sanaa, and Tellarians also became playable. Stellaris 2.1 was a smaller update that saw the addition of the L cluster, a special area of space sitting just outside the main galaxy that the player could now access via abandoned L gates, megastructures that could be claimed and repaired, allowing for great risks and great rewards. We also saw the addition of binary and trinary star systems, adding more flavor and eventually some new possibilities to the game. While it was a small update for Stellaris, the 2.1 era saw several large changes to Star Trek New Horizons, including 2 new named versions during this time. The initial update added many new events and event chains, species such as the Lesepians, Lurians, Zenkethi, Valerians, Shepalites, and Euridians, and even new mechanics such as the suppression of dissidents for our favorite authoritarian empires and the neutral zone mechanic for the Federation. In fact, this was the first named update, which debuted and greatly improved upon this mechanic, added the mirror invasion, and many of the TOS Enterprise events from the shows and event chains from the films. Not long thereafter, Birth of the Federation was released, which was focused on the Federation initially. In addition to new content and events such as distress calls, the Federation fleet saw an overhaul of over 40 ship classes, and the Starfleet Museum made its debut, automatically retiring outdated ship classes. With this new mechanic came another, Tech Level. This update made it so that weapons from the TNG era could not be installed on an NX-class ship, for example, meaning that both your ship tech and the tech for your weapons and other components had to be roughly equivalent throughout the game. These updates were the beginning of the end of the old year-based era system. Remember warp and gate travel? Well, this update was also introduced a new jump drive for advanced cruisers based on what we saw in Discovery, which would also go on to influence the special high warp functions of advanced warp drives that would be introduced in a later patch. With all of these changes, it also makes sense that a large number of ship components were updated to use this new system as well. The Federation also gained access to a unique embassy building. On the non-Federation species side, the Xindi received a council mechanic, the Tal Shiar and the Obsidian Order had brand new shiny HQ buildings, and many other unique buildings were added, such as the Bank of Boleus. In a nod to Discovery, the Saurians were also added in this patch. 2.2 ushered in brand new, massive changes to the economy. The first was to planets and pops, replacing the old tile system with districts, buildings, and jobs that pops would work. Along with rulers, specials, and plebeian jobs came the trade value mechanic and a DLC featuring a new type of empire that specialized in getting as much of it as they could, megacorps. But monetary empires were not the only ones to benefit. All empires gained access to new civics and traditions mechanics, and with all of this newfound activity, the galactic and slave markets were set up to take advantage of it all. 2.2 also saw the addition of an administrative cap to Stellaris, over which started to cause penalties. Colony Foundation events also were added at this patch, with swarms eating your robot pops, Titanic life walking through your cities, and much more. For Star Trek New Horizons, another huge change in Stellaris meant another large rework had to be done, especially to planets to use the new job system while retaining an older version of buildings and district functionalities that reflected the Star Trek universe better. However, they did have some time to fit in additions in the forms of the Barzan, Telosians, and Terai, adding a new crew resource to man your ships and stations, full ship sets for the Nausicaans and Temerians, individual ships for pirates, and a Galactic 4 megastructure. The Tal Shiar and Obsidian orders were also able to target specific empires for their espionage acts with this patch, rather than having lists randomly drawn up. 2.2 also saw the release of the Ferengi UI mod. The 2.3 update added relics and archaeology to the game, adding more unique flavor and archaeological events for empires to explore. Planets also received special designations depending on which buildings were present, providing bonuses for the production of their corresponding resources. Players could also set this manually as well. Most importantly for our purposes, there was a big change in the architecture of the game itself. Support for 32-bit systems was dropped. In real terms, this meant that mods that had been limited to a maximum size of 2 GB, which is why the submod was initially created. However, with this update, the submod became obsolete and all content was rolled into the main mod, which could grow to be as large as it wanted. In terms of content, mining and research stations gained unique models for all major empires with this update. Additionally, the Delta Quadrant automated personnel units also received their own voice acting. Unique Star Trek relics, including the Bajoran Orbs, Sword of Kahless, and the Doomsday Fragment were also added. Many events were also changed to make use of the new archaeology dig site mechanic, and Star Trek Strange New Worlds gave us a modern-day take on the Gorn, which was also reflected in the mod at this time. From the perspective of Star Trek New Horizons, the Stellaris 2.4 update was relatively small, only adding the new Paradox launcher to the game. This changed how mods were handled by the game, allowing players to create their own groups of mods and having multiple groups available in parallel. However, just because the 2.4 update was small does not mean that the dev team sat on their heels and did nothing. In addition to a brand new shiny Universal UI mod, one of the largest updates in Star Trek New Horizons history was released, Into the Mirror Darkly. It changed how many things work, including terraforming, how the galaxy was generated, ship speeds, as well as district and building systems. The Gorn, the Terran, and the Xindi all received complete ship sets, even more unique buildings were added, and a new flagship system was added for the Federation and Terrans. They also received unique Federation hero ships which could be built via Utopia Phoenicia, and all ships were rescaled to make them reflect their real sizes from the Star Trek universe. There were also many miscellaneous but larger additions as well, including more planet specializations, underspace quarters for the Terai, the Undine Invasion Crisis, Mirror Universe Invasion events, and the Federation Formation event Babel 1. Naturally, it would not be the Mirror Universe without coups, which were also added via events. And finally, relating to another endgame crisis, Iconian research sites were also added to planets. Finally, empires received voice acting in this update as well. I will also always remember this as a special update from my channel, because this was the first time that I began to create Star Trek New Horizons content. While I had played since around the 1.5 update, the first video I ever made was for the Into the Mirror Darkly update around in November 2019. Update 2.5 and the Lithoids pack did not add much to the base game that Star Trek New Horizons would take advantage of. Instead, the dev teams focused on fleshing out the Into the Mirror Darkly release with even more unique buildings, this time for the Bajorans and Terrans, more expedition events, and leaders, some of whom you could choose between heroic scientists and heroic admirals, such as Kirk, Pike, Picard, and Georgiou. 2.6 and the Federation's DLC added many new types of federations to Stellaris, allowing for believable alliances between empires looking to either survive or dominate the galaxy. Diplomacy saw the largest number of changes with the addition of envoys and the diplomatic stance policy. For Star Trek New Horizons, a new mega shipyard structure would also be very useful, and finally, a quality of life change that was welcome to many. Ships that were reinforcing fleets would now go missing in action rather than having to fly through every system to get to its fleet, which helped saved many stragglers during wars. In addition to the mega shipyards, content from Star Trek Picard also made its debut at this time, as well as heroic engineers and security chiefs. On the way to forming the United Federation of Planets, the founding empires would also take advantage of the new Federation types, and could also invite Federation-building empires into the coalition, which then may or may not join during Federation formation. Finally, the Zinti also made their debut during this time. Stellaris' 2.7 update made a couple of changes to edicts, most notably making them permanent instead of having to renew them every 10 years, and also adding a cap to the number you could have at once. To offset these changes, many new edicts also made their way into the game. The Star Trek New Horizons devs were most likely on steroids at this time, as many new things were added to the game. The first were new species, including the Baul, Katarians, Malon, Holy Order of Kinshaya, and the Centaurians. As the Federation, you could now also choose how you reacted to the attack on Khitomer, including supporting the Klingons with ships and potentially improving your relations with them. Many new faces also joined our hero rosters from Star Trek Discovery, Strange New Worlds, and Picard. In keeping with the diplomatic changes, envoys also received Star Trek-flavored events, and you could now send scientists or an admiral and their corresponding fleets for diplomatic conferences with allies, enemies, and neutral neighbors. More Picard content was also added, including the Romulan Supernova and the Children of Mars stories, lower deck heroes, and full Sonar and Bajoran chipsets also burst onto the scene. The Federation flagships also received some variety and now came in two flavors, military and science. However, the largest changes to Star Trek New Horizons during this time was to its mechanics, including changes to Borg ship adaptation, the ship assimilation mechanic by the Borg, new heroic missions, new types of wars, many updates to events, new internal relations as a Federation between member worlds, and the Dominion now being able to expand through both conquest as well as taking over Alliance members like an evil version of the Federation. 2.8 and the Necroids pack wasn't very useful for the Star Trek New Horizons devs, but they powered on anyway. The recent updates to the Dominion in 2.7 led to even more, including the Dominion War Chain event. Minor empires such as the Ephesians, Pacificans or Selkies, and the Gazarites also made their debut. The Borg ship assimilation and adaptation mechanics were also heavily modified in this patch, and our favorite galactic idiots, the Packlids, received more content from lower decks and became playable. They, along with the Vantwar, Zinti, and Talaxians, received full ship sets, the Bajorans gained an interceptor, the Herodians had brand new, nice, shiny battlecruisers and frigates, and both the Klingons and Federation boasted many new ships and ship variants. Thank you for watching this video on the update history of Star Trek New Horizons. If you liked it, please like the video and subscribe to my channel for more Star Trek New Horizons content, including playthroughs, tutorials, and analyses videos. You can also support me by becoming a member of my channel, which will get you early access to videos, priority replies to comments, emojis, badges, behind-the-scenes updates, and more. You can also join my Discord server called The Collective to interact with other Star Trek fans and gamers, and get earlier insights into channel developments and more. The link for that is in the description below. Thanks, and I hope to see you next time for another episode of Jamie Plays. Bye for now.